Hi everyone, I have Pete here with me. You all remember Pete. Say hi, Pete.
G'day guys, how's it going?
So happy to have you here. Pete and I have been wanting to do this for quite some time, and we finally got here. Yay! I am going to show Pete what the plants that he gave me are doing. Now, just in case you haven't seen that video, I have a very, very animated video that I recorded. I've got the link up above, and Pete sent me some plants. He just asked me for my mailing address and made up a box and sent me some plants. I had no idea. I opened the box and my mouth was on the floor. So watch that if you haven't watched it before you watch this video. But Pete, what would you like us to start with? Do you have any? If you can even remember.
Yeah, well, I can remember some of them. I can't remember the entire list. I think you just surprised me. You go for it.
Okay.
But yeah, it was fun. Like, I felt like blowing your mind, so I did sort of spoil you.
You did blow my mind. You blew my mind. So we'll start with the variegated
Domesticum.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so that one's doing well. That was was that a mid cutting that I originally gave you, or that one? Or was it a tip?
I think it was a mid cutting, and it was just this sleeve.
Yeah.
And first of all, of course, because Leca's my jam. Hang on, let me put down my
gross.
reservoir.
It's in Leca, not soil. Oh my god. How could
Did that surprise you? Did that surprise you? So look at that.
Wow, okay.
So this one isn't in a transparent pot, so sorry, we can't see what's going on, but they've got the roots there. Yep. And this is new.
Yeah, that's how you can tell, right? That it's come from a mid cutting, because it has those tiny little initial leaves that come out, and then they quickly size up.
Yeah, and this one is actually, hang on, no, it started with this one. Sorry, my bad.
The smallest one, the gimp leaf. That's always the first one, the gimp leaf. It's
that one was the gimp leaf over there.
Did you ever watch Scary Movie?
Yes.
That Take My Strong Hand?
Yes, Take My Strong
I better use my strong hand.
It always reminds me of that. It's like the plant's strong hand coming out, and then it gets back to normal. But yeah, cool.
But I really love how this one's coming along. I just need to start seeing some variegation now. Then I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm. Was there any variegation even on the gimp leaf, or?
Is it?
Because they seem to be fickle. They seem to be somewhat fickle. I'm not sure.
It looks a bit speckly, but it's a bit hard to tell. I'd need to use a magnifying glass. I thought. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not convinced yet.
It's really interesting because they're so similar. I don't know how closely related they are to silver swords.
Silver swords.
I assume they're pretty close because they look sort of similar. I mean, they're both philodendron. But the variegated silver swords that I've got, they seem to be, they'll just throw out multiple just all green leaves in a row, and you'll be like, oh shit, it's reverted. And then all of a sudden it'll be like, boom, just as you're about to cut it, it's like, here's a really variegated leaf, and you kind of like, what just happened? Whereas these ones seem to revert pretty readily. I've found I've had to do a bit of cutting back, so you'll have to keep an eye on it and just see how you go with the green leaves.
Well, this one was very encouraging.
I know.
Not so much the others, so we'll have to see.
Yep,
we'll have to see how that pans out. We'll see. All right, next up is, what's this one? It's the Crassinervium.
Yeah,
this is the one,
beautiful.
I didn't even know what that was. So we started here.
Yep.
The one leaf. We came here.
Yep.
And something else is happening over here.
Awesome. So that one's doing well in Leca too. These ones are really cool because they have these kind of like spear tip shape. I don't know if they always remind me of, I think it's like the Zulu nation in Africa, right? How they had those spears that have really long metal tips.
Yeah, the assegai.
Is that what they're called?
I think it's called an assegai. Yeah.
It reminds me of that because they're these beautiful long leaves with this really strong midrib. But the really cool thing about them is that when the aerial roots come out, you'll notice they're like fluorescent red. And
really?
Yeah, that's when I first got it. The aerial roots that were coming out of the side of the plant that I air layered were fluorescent red.
I see something really, really small there. I couldn't even show you.
You'll have to keep
an
eye on it. Yeah, you'll have to keep an eye on it. But that was really cool. I was like, wow, okay. So it was sort of like, it was even brighter than the color of like the El Choco root. You know how those are bright red? Yeah. So
all
something to look out for.
Talking about the El Choco, here she is. Here she is. Yeah, so obviously the old leaves, they're all gone.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Didn't need them. So that's a new one over there. And there's a gorgeous, gorgeous new one. Take that out of the way. Coming there.
Looking good. They size up really quickly.
Do they?
Yeah. They're very.
Nice.
If you get it growing vertically, it sizes up so fast. Like,
so
I've noticed the red also behind the leaves will once the leaves start getting bigger, that's when it really kicks in.
It deepens a lot. Nice.
Yeah.
That will
so
be
don't worry about that.
Awesome. Good. But yeah, roots are doing beautifully. I think now that the plant is really settled in, it's really packed in those roots. I think it's happy now, which is why fine. It's now just growing and tossing out new leaves.
These are the ones that you got to be careful with spider mite. Every single one of my El Chocos at some point has had spider mite. Keep spraying them down. They seem to be a magnet for it. So keep an eye on it.
What gives, Pete? I have enough problems with my allocations.
I know. It's all those velvet leaves. Like, it really is. It's not a cliche. They're the worst, and they seem to just spontaneously appear. You'll think I haven't had a new plant come into my collection in 6 months. I haven't seen any spider mites, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, they're everywhere on my velvet leaf philodendrons, and you just be like, what the hell? Where did you guys come from? Did you just crawl into the room under the door?
They probably do. They probably got a memo. Velvet plants over there. Let's all go.
They can smell them.
I don't know. Now, this one is the Philodendron Mexicanum.
Yep. These ones are also very cool.
Yeah, so we started off here.
Yep.
You know, that one's a bit scraggly.
Bit of a crispy critter.
Then we went here.
Yeah, another mid cutting, right? He's got the gimp hand. Yeah.
It was, yeah. That was.
What a ripper. You know what I love about these? They have really long petioles that look normal, and then they just kind of go...
I mean, the full leaf. It's just bare minimum. It's really weird.
It's a participation award. Yeah.
Everyone gets a prize.
Yeah, exactly. These are the same as the El Chocos. The bigger they get, the redder the backs that
the redder they become.
Become.
Nice. And then, of course, we've got that new one over there, which is sizing up really, really nicely. Mm-hmm. And there's something beautiful.
You crushed it. Something with the Leca, huh? Seems like you've nailed it.
Oh, well, you know.
That root system looks pretty good too. Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're all
amazing.
Just really, really happy. Happy.
I've got a question for you. How would you compare if you had this same plant growing in Leca but in a closed vessel not with drainage like this, you just had it in a vase, say, and it had water at the bottom, so no drainage. Yeah. How would you think those two would pair? Would there be a difference in the growth rate or the health of the plant? Would it be exactly the same in your books? Or?
Look, to be honest, I don't know. And I think the best way to do that is to just conduct an experiment.
Yeah.
You know, get a plant, try it. What I think, based on practice that I have, is the fact that I don't like to use those vases and with that no ventilation. So people will have the vase and maybe they'll drill a hole so they've got the level of the reservoir right at the bottom. But the rest of the vase is just completely closed. I just think that there isn't enough airflow.
So you think it's the airflow more so than the ability for the water to kind of drain out if you lift it up and then flush it.
Definitely. Because the whole point about Leca is aeration and drainage. So it's not just, so when you've got it there, when you actually see someone who's growing a plant that's closed, you can actually see some condensation on the bottle itself on the inside. So that condensation, that's basically trapped water. It was going somewhere. It couldn't go anywhere and it starts to condense on there.
Yeah.
What's that doing to roots? So you don't have that airflow going.
Gotcha.
And I know a lot of people grow their plants successfully using that method, but it's just that when I really think about it, I just don't think that's a good way to go. And that's why I always have the ventilation there.
Yeah, I think I might have to try that because I've had trouble doing the no drainage thing with Leca, and I'm not sure if there's just too much space between the balls, and so there's too much water sitting in there, and there's not enough of that airflow moving around. But then I use pond, and it does so well in no drainage with most things. There are some things that it didn't do well in, but other plants I haven't paired them, say, doing it in Leca like this, but comparatively, where I've had just like no drainage and just used Leca, I tend to have root rot issues and other problems.
It also depends on the plant, you know, whether a plant is water loving or it's not water loving. Some plants, for example, like calatheas that are big drinkers, they probably would do very well in pond. Whereas if you put a plant if you get a succulent example and put it in a closed vessel, I mean, it's probably not going to do too well. So it's a balance of a lot of things, you know.
Alocasias I found did well in the Leca no drainage, but not some of the philodendrons that I tried. At least they survived, but compared to their counterparts that were in soil or in pond, they were growing so much faster, and I was just like, clearly something's up. And then I transferred them into soil and they took off, and I'm like, there's something wrong with what I'm doing. So clearly I need to give it more drainage and more aeration.
And that's that's the thing. That's the trick about Leca, and that's what I always try to get people to stand. It's not Leca that's killing your plant. It's about how we're using it, and depending on the plant that you're growing. So if you're like saw with your alocasias, if you've got your setup is in a particular way, the plant might not like that setup.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing for me. I kept killing all of my alocasias in soil. They were just getting overwatered. And they seem to have like no late, right? It's almost like you overwater it, the next day it's dead. Like it's completely rotted. And you're just like, just give me a warning sign. Like have a leaf yellow or something. Like the whole plant's dead. You know, like I remember one, I was just like moving it around and it just went bloop. It just like broke off at the base. And I was like, oh my God.
Anyone who grows alocasias knows that break. Like, what? And then you touch it and it's all moist.
Oh, it's horrible to stink. Yeah, I know. And that happened in like a few days. And I was like, good God. So when I moved it to Leca though, they seem to love it. And I think they have that really chunky kind of water-loving roots. I think alocasias are sort of more water-loving and can grow in places that are like boggy and way ironic waterlogged.
Yes.
But yeah, it was weird. So anyway, they did a lot better in Leca. I've got some alocasias down here in pond too, and I use a little layer of Leca at the very bottom just so I can add more water. Yeah, because they dry out as soon as their roots are there too. It's just like a few days and all the water's gone, and you're just like,
gone,
oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
Thirsty guys.
Alocasias are evil things. They're just evil. I love them. They're evil. Next one is Zaza.
Is that the Florida Beauty?
That's the Florida Beauty.
Wow, nice. Has that got multiple heads on it? It looks like it's several plants, or you've got activated nodes all over the shop, or are they?
Yes, they are. And I'm just waiting for it to get a little bit bigger, kind of sort it out.
Yeah.
There's stuff everywhere. But
that's amazing. Awesome.
Yeah. There's just roots everywhere. It's doing really, really well.
Because it was quite small, wasn't it, when I gave it to you?
It was. There's some lovely colours coming through there. This is going to be something else.
They're hard. I don't know how people get them huge because, the problem I have with them is that they quite often revert or they turn completely albo. So I had one recently that I had to give the chop, and I had about 4 leaves in a row that were pure yellow. And so I was like, it's gone. And you can see the stem is like red. So there was no chlorophyll there. It was like red and yellow, so you just knew there's no green to come out in the future. So I had to chop it back. But some of those huge specimens that you see people have, the leaves get massive, and you're just like, oh. So that's why I gave it to you. I was like, I want to see you get it massive. That'd be amazing. Mine, not so much.
Pete. No pressure.
Yeah. I'll come back in a few years. It better be one of those ones behind you.
Okay, then.
Is this the oblique one?
Yes, and I haven't opened this in weeks now. I was actually good. I used to open it like all the time. You know how you get when you're wet sticking something and you just keep checking and keep checking.
And you see nothing.
The trick is to just
ignore it.
Forget about it. Literally just forget about it. Just make sure it's still moist and forget about it. And I checked today and I don't know if you can see that. I don't want to touch it.
I think I can see a tiny leaf there. It's a bit blurry, but yep.
Yes, there.
There's an interesting thing. So I recently sold about 50 of these wet sticks because the issue I had, obliqua, there's a whole bunch of these monstera that are just evil if they start growing horizontally, like if the tip just turns and starts growing horizontally, run. And so all the obliquas, like the Peruvian one, the Amazonas one, I've got the Filamentus one, they all do it as soon as they grow horizontally. So I sold off a bunch because I ended up chopping up all of my runners and I had about 100 of them. So that's why the prices crashed on too, because they were so quick to propagate. But the trick that I think people do, I would now shove them into soil or something or some kind of thing where they're upright. And then the vine is upright, facing upwards, and the growth will come out going up. Because as soon as I did that with some of my nodes, they activated and started growing clean. And it was getting them vertical as opposed to sitting horizontally.
Yeah. So, do you know what's funny though? Is because I've got 2 in here. I've got the Monstera Adansonii albo, that one that didn't quite make, and then I've got the I don't quite know.
So he's holding on too.
I don't. Yeah. There's actually. I can't even show you. It's that small. There's a little bit of growth there. Something's happened, but I don't know which one's which.
The obliquas are the really sort of anemic, thin ones. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. All right. So that's my Monstera then. That's coming up, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah. I would probably chuck them in a cup, even with moss, and just have them vertical.
No, I'll be doing that immediately. I get off this thing with you. I'll do that. But
it's the most annoying thing.
I think I got some long Tupperware that I could probably use that will go up, and then I could still still closing. But that's them. So
awesome.
I don't
Good
know.
job. I know mine took the same amount of time though. The ones that I sold recently were at about the same. So they've taken months to even do that, right? And I wonder too how much of it is the little like root buds that are on each node. I think they must have to be in really good contact with the soil
medium.
or the moss. Yeah. Otherwise they just don't grow, and then that doesn't get
that
the plant to kind of kick in.
You just kind of lay it on top, don't you?
Yeah.
And then if you don't really have that contact, then that's probably not going to. That's probably what's happening with my obliquas.
Yeah, I think that's what I'd done wrong as well, because I had it in a similar setup. And it is interesting because the other ones, like the Adansonii, if it's got enough humidity, it seems to just push roots out right? Those fluffy white aerial roots pop out. Like I put them in the aeroponics system. Yeah. And if they grow above into that dome section that's just really humid, they'll still spit out like, I'll sometimes have like a foot-long root in there after a few months, and it's just the Adansonii. Adansonii goes bananas with its aerial root, but the obliquas just don't seem to do it the same way. So you really have to them against the medium to get them to grow into it. And it's the same. I have them on some moss poles at the moment, and I can confirm that the runner, I had a few runners, and I sort of took them and put them up against the moss pole and forced them into it with some wire. Yeah. They did actually spit out a leaf straight away after that, so it does work. Yeah. But they haven't yet grown into it. It's taken ages for them to push roots in. I'm like, God damn.
I guess the question is, are you keeping your moss pole moist, Pete?
I think too moist. I think that's my problem. It's getting it right. They dry out a lot though. I tell you what, that's part of my problem.
Well, I mean that's the major problem with moss poles. That's the biggest problem. The biggest struggle.
Yeah, maintaining that just right zone, right? That Goldilocks zone of not too wet, not too dry.
That it is, and it's one that we find a lot of people find difficult.
Does it get easier the bigger they get? Like with the ones behind you, I imagine the larger they are, with larger aerial roots going into the moss pole deeper into it, I imagine you can let them dry out a little more and it's less problem, whereas fine roots, if they dry out, I imagine kind of like they're dead and the plant has to start again.
I'll say maybe, probably.
Yeah, there's another experiment for a try.
No, yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, if your roots aren't as established, I mean, some of the area of these things are as big as my finger.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot of moisture in there, and if the moss pole is moist for like, it's dry for like a week, I bet that's not going to make much of a difference. Yeah. Whereas, the fine ones, I mean, they'll just desiccate and that'll be the end. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, keeping these guys moist is a very big problem for me. I think at this stage, I've just accepted the fact that they'll never be moist.
I know you have that issue sometimes too when you double stack the moss poles, where you think you've got enough liquid going top, and you come back later and you realize the bottom is bone dry, and it's like the top half is wet, and you're like, oh, and so you put another lot in. You gotta
keep putting more, more and more and more, and then it's a whole thing. I mean, I have a video where I talk about all the bad things about moss poles.
This is why I just wish I lived in the tropics and you could just have some automated system, just wet them every day. Just I just come back and I look at them and that's it. I don't have to do any maintenance.
Yeah, moss poles are annoying. They're annoying. Anyway, we'll leave moss poles.
Oh, awesome. I have to try and remember which one this is.
It was number 5. No, this isn't. This wasn't from your box. This wasn't from the special box. This is PSS number 3.
I was gonna say, I don't remember sending you that for free. Yeah. Wow. Okay, but it has sized up. This is Spiritus Sancti. Beautiful.
Yes.
Awesome. Yes. I love that. See that most recent leaf that you have, or the second most recent one, the one in front of your face, that it gets those little lobes really quickly, right? At the top, the little bunny ears that are kind of really squashed down. They are so cute. And so
I know.
I've actually sold everything now. They're all gone. So I'm going to have to live vicariously through you and watch these updates and see how it goes.
Do you not even have one yourself?
No, I sold it.
What? Really? Did the guitars mean that much to you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, some of the guitars, but I also know that I can import more with my friends, so we're going to probably try and get another batch in a few months. So I was just like, I guess I'll have to take a 6-month growth hit and just start again. Yeah. I'm very, I mean, I showed you when it arrived. I was a bit nervous. I was like, the leaf ripped, didn't it? Or
yes, I had like one of the leaves ripped, and it was like, oh, there's only like 2 or 3, and they're all like really small, and I was like, oh.
It's been so weird how voraciously they've grown. For me, in my care and my friend's care, he's had 10 of them down here as well in Melbourne, and it's in Victoria weather, right? It's pretty cold. Yeah. Especially the indoor weather. I mean, my indoor space is pretty warm comparatively, but when I got them, I noticed that the leaves started to yellow after I took them out of TC, probably within a month, and I was like, oh my God, they're hungry. They're hungry. They want some fertilizer, because I was like, I'll just take it easy. And then I started feeding them, and they just took off. It was insane. Nice. Yeah, and they haven't had any issues at all. So So yeah, I remember Spiritus Sancti had this this kind of stigma about it being very difficult to propagate and to take care of. But at least so far, it's been exactly like every other philodendron. So hopefully it does well.
Yeah, it's been. I've been really surprised. I guess people saying that they're hard to take care of. Why I was extra nervous when I got it and the leaf was torn.
Yeah.
But and all I did was I just put it, and what I've done, it's still in soil, obviously.
Yeah, that's it. Not in a rush to move that one into Leca. Yeah. I know. Is this the only one in soil in your collection?
Yeah. I mean, no. I mean, there's one or two moss poles that are in soil, like the golden Pothos back there is, because I can't.
Well, and it's easy to replace, right? If you decided.
Who cares about that? I could get another one. But this one, I just thought, you know what? I don't quite know what the root system's like in there. I don't want to mess things up. It's tissue culture. This poor thing's been through a lot already. I'm just gonna leave it there. So I've just got it in there, and I put it in a little glass dome as well. So lots of humidity, lots of light, and voila! I'm really happy.
You're crushing it. That was the one that I sold the other day. Was the last one that I had, and it was the largest. It was the best one, and it was pretty much the same size as the one you've got. So you've obviously done really well.
Why did you not sell me the best one?
Well, it wasn't for sale. I didn't want to sell it. And then someone offered me, I think it was about $700, and I was like,
they gave you an offer you couldn't refuse.
Say no. Yeah, that's it. It's not going to be worth this. The next time that we get some in, they'll be worth half that, if not even less. So I'm like, all right, if you want it that bad, it's yours. Yeah. I'll take the money now.
$700?
Yep. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So, full disclosure to people watching, I got 10 of them in TC, and I think they were $100 to $200 a plantlet, and then took them out. We had to obviously also factor in, postage, the import permits that we have to pay for and everything like that. But we took them out of TC and grew them out for about 4 months. And then we're selling them. At the time, I was seeing plants about the size of the one that you've got now going for $1,800 when we first started trying to sell out.
Wow.
But I think people's tolerance for that, especially during winter and after the kind of crash prices just completely wane. So I think we sold a few for I think we set it at about $500. That was the initial one. And then my friend recently had another batch he was getting rid of, and it got as low as $250, but they were the really small one.
That's higher risk, isn't it? I mean, people.
That's
I think
the trade-off.
I think people would be happier to pay $500 knowing that your plant is probably going to buy.
Well, that was this person that came down and got it for $700. It was funny because he was like, I'm like, I'll just send it to him. It's fine. It's in the mail. You're in Melbourne. You'll get it.
And he's like, no.
Today. And he was like, no, I'm driving down to get it. I was like, all right, it's fine, But he was like, yeah. And he was happy. He was like, oh my God, it's big. It's not going to have any problems. And I'm like, knock on wood. I don't know how you care for these things. Once it leaves my house, it's under your control. But I was like, out of every one that I've sold, this one's the largest one and should be okay. Just don't don't overwater.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're beautiful plants.
Wow.
And I'm glad that, I think only last year they were going for $8,000 a piece on eBay. Did you see those ones that have been smuggled into the country that were like $8,000? And it was only twice the size of the one you had, right? So the prices have definitely crashed on them, which is, a good and a bad thing depending on whether or not you're selling them. But I'm glad more people can now get them and just.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's especially for plants like this one where you've got a lot of the poaching that's going on.
There's only about 1,000 of them in the wild, right? I think they did a survey, and now there'll be probably millions of them around the world. So at least the plant is never going to go extinct as a result. Glad you got it. Now the next one is a variegated one, right?
Yeah,
I think they're still about $1,000 each for the tiny little TC one.
No, thank you, Pete. No, thank you. I still have a little bit of buyer's remorse even with this one, to be honest.
Oh man, I feel you. Oh man.
It was so spontaneous. Remember how I decided to buy it? It was just so spontaneous. I didn't plan it or anything. I was just like,
I told you, right? I said, look, I've got these, but they're about to all go. If you want one of you tell me.
I know.
And you were like, no, thank you. And then later you were like, do you have any left? I was like, I feel like a drug dealer. She's trying to manage her addiction, and then she's like, I know. Maybe just a little something.
You are not helping. I don't even know why.
I know.
Do you know what's funny is it wasn't even on my list because first of all, I don't even have a list. I'm at the point in my plant's journey now where I do not have a wish list.
That's almost more dangerous, right? Because then you see something that's new and you're like, well, I haven't wanted it for a long time, but I'll just get it,
Probably. But I guess it's because when I get a plant now, the plant needs to have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just getting plants for it to sit and look pretty or for me to tick a box. It's okay, I'm trying to, make a point. I'm trying to show people how you can move a codex plant from soil to leca. Stuff like that.
Well, you can be the first person to do the whole leca thing with the Spiritus Sancti. I'm not sure how much of that's out there, right? Everyone's still learning.
Well, it is definitely going into leca for damn sure. And what's really funny though is today is actually the first time I put this plant on my social. So I've done a post on Instagram and I did a community post on my YouTube as well. And a lot of people are like, no way, don't even do it. It's too expensive. Don't even do it. And the best comment out of all of them is someone who went like ... what soil? And I was like, yes. Like what is soil anyway? Of course she's going into leca, 100%. But I'm gonna throw everything at this transition. All the tricks I have to get her to survive, I will throw at it, and she will live. Why not? Yeah,
I have a feeling it's going to surprise. It'll be that thing where it turns out to be the easiest one that you've ever done, or something strange, right? It'll just be one of those stories where you're like, really, it was that easy,
To be honest with you, I could probably transition it right now.
Yep.
It would
100%, yeah.
It would probably be fine. And I guess the only reason I'm not doing it is maybe I'm just lazy or whatever.
Well, also, if it's a larger plant and something does go wrong, there's more to chop, right? So you can always, there's that kind of latency built in where you're kind of like, if anything does go wrong, I can just...
I need some nodes and some area roots somewhere, and then at least I can get that. But it should be fine. I mean, once I get sort out my leca properly, I'll probably give it an air stone. Not probably, definitely
royal
give it
treatment.
an air stone.
Yeah.
Oh, she would be getting the royal treatment, and she would be fine. So
it'll probably be like, man, you just take it easy. I know what I'm doing, and you'll be like, no, you don't. Force feeding it with a spoon, like get it down, yeah.
Exactly. But thank you for those gorgeous plants. I enjoy them. I love them. I even still have that sign. Remember that sign, that thing you wrote on the box? I don't know why I didn't bring it, but I have it. I have yet to frame it. I will frame it, and it really meant a lot to me. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. I'm so glad that I get to, give back as well and get to see these things grow. So, you keep me posted. I'm looking forward to the next update.
I will definitely keep you posted.
Which one's going to be the first to get a poll?
Oh, it'll probably have, I don't know, between the El Choco and the Florida.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. Whichever one grows, probably. Yeah. I think she probably might get there first.
Yeah. I think she'll surprise you. The next few leaves to come out are going to probably be 2 or 3 times the size of the biggest one there. Like it just takes off. It's ridiculous.
Because this one is way too messy. I need to sort it out.
I'm amazed that one is so... You've got so many little plants in there. You'll have to separate them out and then grow them and just pick the best one. Or put them all on a pole and just have a bush.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. That is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a Florida masterpiece because, I don't like to sell my plants. Not that I don't even like to. I don't know how to sell plants. I can't be bothered. I recently chopped up my Monstera aurea and my Monstera albo.
Yep.
And I've got like 6 cuttings of each and I'm looking at them. I'm like, what do I do now?
Make more.
Yeah, but how many more can I make?
I had that issue. I had I think I started with about 10 albos that I actually bought over time. 10 different cutters. I wanted nice ones, different sorts.
Yeah.
But I ended up growing them out and then chopping them up, I think about 4 months ago. And I had 55.
Jeez.
I know. And then I was like, okay, gonna have to sell a whole bunch of these because there's not going to be enough space. And so I've been slowly just whittling away at getting rid of, the collection that I had. But I was amazed because I was like, didn't expect to have that many. Was kind of thinking, it'd be good to go from 10 to 15.
So how much are you selling them for?
It'll depend on the variegation. So if it's the highest quality ones, probably about 100, 150 a leaf, depending on the size of the plant. But I it's one of those things, again, the price crashed with those. They were $450 a leaf when I first got them during COVID. So that was crazy. But they're still not really they're not in TC as far as I know, at least not accessibly in Australia. So you still have to get them through propagation from other people. So they're one of those ones that if you do want investment plants, even if it's just a bit on the side, grow out albos. They're the thing that everyone always wants. They're beautiful plants. I feel like they grow really well. They're easy to propagate more. I mean, I've lost a few to root rot because, you just don't keep your eye on the prize with every single one of them. But But yeah, it is funny. I remember getting the first one and being so anal about like, oh my God, I need to do this, take care of it. And then you get to a point where you've got like 50 of them and you're like, only 3 died. Whatever, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Like I can't just sit there every day with a microphone, a microscope and just be like,
I'll show you something.
Oh wow, you got a bush of it.
It's like a bouquet, a mix of elbows and Oreo.
And that's not even Leca.
Oh, and this is like chunky perlite. I'm just like, okay, I'll just put them in the chunky perlite until I figure out.
And they water propagate really well too, right? Like that's what I ended up doing. I took all the ones that had aerial roots that had grown into the soil and potted those up, but then any that didn't, I just chucked them in water. Interestingly, some of them just never active, and I had to just throw them in the trash, right? Just like 4 months and nothing's happened. It's just a dud. I was about to say dud root, but you'll get that. But maybe others won't. But yeah, it's a dud node.
Yeah. Because I think two of those in there, I think might be, but I've just decided to put them back in there and see what happens. If it'll take me 6 months or 8 months, just sit there. As long as you're happy, that's fine. Whatever you're doing. What I've decided to do, instead of selling the cuttings, is I'll just grow out the plant.
Yeah.
I'll grow out the plant until it's got like 3, 4, 5, and then sell that.
Well, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's a different market for that. Like, I know someone who's a seller, but she sells large established plants. She doesn't sell cutting smaller plants. She's more of I buy the cuttings and smaller plants and then I grow them out large. And then she has like a whole network of people that are collectors like yourself that prefer to, instead of having a small plant, they want the massive one and they'll drop huge money on it. And I'm just
exactly. Because they don't want to go through the risk of getting a cutting, and also the time it takes so long for your vision to actually come to fruition with this one little leaf.
Well, like to get an elbow the size of something behind you would take like 2-3 years from a single cutting.
Exactly. And who's got it? As we were saying earlier, ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that. I know exactly. Well, it depends on the price point, right? Because there are definitely price points where I'm like, nope, I'm getting a cutting and I'm taking my sweet ass time. But then there are others where you're just like,
Well, but the thing as well is, I was reading something that says, don't project your relationship with money onto other people. So, if someone decides that they want to spend $700 on a Spiritus Sancti that's this size, that's their money language. That's,
Well, the interesting thing was with this guy that did that, right? A lot of us would think, whoa, that's a lot to drop on a plant. He only has 5 plants. And they were the main ones he wanted. He's like, I've wanted these for years and I've just bam. And I'm like, to be fair, I've probably spent much more than $700 on Bunnings plants where they were $50 like that's 14 Bunnings plants for $50 a piece. I've definitely blown through that. And they're just the usual ones I have around the house. Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's a trail of dead bodies behind me. They were the ones I learnt on. So
exactly.
But it was really it is interesting how people do the hobby differently. They have different incomes and different amounts they want to spend on. I have other friends like I refuse to spend more than $100 on a plant no matter what. And do you? You don't have you make the rules, right? So you make it as fun as you want.
Anywho, I will leave it there, Pete. Thank you so much for joining me, and obviously we will have you back again. We definitely need to have you back again. We haven't had a chat in a really long time.
No, it sounds good. I guess to mention that your show's about to come out, right? We're going to be anticipating that September was it the 1st?
September the 1st, yes.
Hopefully this podcast comes out beforehand, but
Well, I'll have to do that now, won't I? I'll be editing all weekend.
Wow. It'll be one of those weird things. If it's already come out, people will be probably more pumped because they can just get on YouTube and look up that episode.
And just go watch it. But no, we won't do that. We won't do that because we'll promote it in other ways when it does come out. But yes,
awesome. I know. Congrats.
If you can, ABC Gardening Australia, yours truly,
showing around the house. We'll get to see the extent of the collection finally.
You will get to see the extent of the collection, but also more importantly, professionally shot by people who know what they're doing and who just will make my plants look so gorgeous.
Nora actually had a lot of time to clean the house beforehand, right?
No, it was only the part of the house with the plants.
Yeah. That's it. Just pushed all the shit to one side. Like, don't look over there.
Don't look there. We're just focusing here, and it was so awesome just watching professional cameraman doing his thing. It was like, wow. Like the stuff that we do is just like, wow. It's like child's play.
You mean he wasn't recording you on his iPhone, just doing this? Imagine that. And that's it. Thank you.
It was just the kind of shots as well. Like do that, the instructions, and I could see how like, oh my gosh, yes, this is going to look amazing. Why don't I do stuff like this for my YouTube channel?
Oh, well, consider it a free lesson, right?
It was a free lesson, of which I think I did not remember a single thing because. But anyway, thank you for mentioning. I wasn't going
my
to
pleasure.
mention it. But yes, if you can watch it, ABC, Gardening Australia, 7 p.m. for 7:30.
Awesome.
7:30. All right, Pete. See you next time. If
See
you
you later.
haven't seen Pete, I've had Pete on my podcast before. Go take a look at that video. It was heaps and heaps and heaps of fun. And find out why I call Pete, instead of calling him Pete versus plants, I call him Pete versus rat. That's an interesting story.
Yeah, that's it. You can go check that out. See you
Bye.
guys.